starting a project where we're going to take a look at the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs roughly 66 million years ago. Um, so, uh, to do this activity, you're going to learn a new skill here. And I think it's a very useful skill. I think it's something that you can use throughout the rest of your life. There's a lot of things that we talk about in class that are awesome to know about and like impact who you are as a person and what you think about the world and life, past life, present life. But this is an actual honest to goodness skill that you can take with you and you can use apart from this activity. So I think it's a really useful one. So along with this, kind of keep that in mind. We're going to talk impacts and extinctions, and most of you probably are recognize that there was a large impact event that wiped out the dinosaurs. In fact, it wiped out virtually everything that was roughly deer size and above as far as animals on our planet. It's a pretty big event. Not the biggest mass extinction of all times, but it was a doozy for sure. Probably is what gave us our start as mammals to really take off and dominate this whole earth. So I'd recommend that you guys print this paper off, or at the very least have it open on your computer so you can look at it. You won't have to turn this paper in. All right, it's a pretty big document that I've made here. It's 8 pages long. So to start with, I would read the description. Okay, so the way this is designed is for you to read through, take a look at the evidence for the impact, see how we came up with this concept. Look at how it was originally hypothesized, and then we looked for data, and we found the data, lots and lots of data, in various different ways, and it's going to describe to you the iridium and the shocked quartz and the microscopic diamonds and the non-terrestrial amino acids and the spinel crystals, and we'll look directly at the depth of ejecta, the material that blew out of the hole, right? But it was a big search. It was quite the search to try and locate where this crater was. Remember, craters on our planet they get eroded away. They disappear. So any meteor crater that's happened on our planet, it doesn't last very long. That's why we know for certain, as well as other dating techniques, that meteor crater out in Arizona that we've talked about a little bit, that thing is actually real recent, right? To find a crater that's 65 million years old on our planet is tricky, but we've done it. So what there's going to be along with this reading here are some reading questions. They're kind of intermixed throughout the reading. What I would have you do is you can either answer them on this paper, but we're not going to hand the paper in. There's going to be a quiz online on It's Learning where it'll essentially be mostly these questions, okay? So you can answer most of those as you go along, and then there's some more mixed in here kind of towards the end a little bit, and there'll be some questions about the map you're going to create. Here's a picture of Meteor Crater out in Arizona. I think you guys, I don't remember if I showed you in here some of the pictures of me standing out on the edge of that crater. It's a pretty awesome sight out in the desert, but that it's pretty recent in comparison, 50,000 years ago. So, and we're talking in terms of millions. So this is going to talk about the person who's responsible for our current understanding of the demise of the dinosaurs as it goes along here. Here's some of the rest of the reading questions. You won't have to mark your location on the map. You will be able to figure this out from making the map. It's going to ask you a question about this on It's Learning, so you can just use your map to answer it, okay? Because we're doing a little bit different this year, trying to do this all virtually. So let me scroll back up here to the top. I'm going to walk you through. Remember, make sure you've read this thing, or this is going to be real confusing, okay? So at least read through this. So what we're going to do is, let me get down to the first part here. So after you've answered the questions there, take a look at part 1, plotting global shocked quartz grain size distribution. So what shocked quartz is, and you'll learn about this in the reading, is when something impacts the planet, like a meteorite, it's going to crack the rock, and it creates this particular pattern in the quartz that's on the planet. So these are very tiny grains of quartz, and they get this really funny cracked pattern in them as they're formed. So let me kind of go down here. We've got, this is the shocked quartz distribution table. So it's going to give you the average grain size of the shocked quartz. In other words, how big is the thing that's cracked. So the larger this thing is, the closer it had to be to the actual impact site. So this is all data to try and figure out where that impact occurred. So obviously Haiti here, which is at 1.25, is the closest to the actual impact site. And I put these in order for you, so as you go down, and be careful, it goes on to the next page, so these are all part of that same data, okay? You're getting essentially further and further away from that impact site. So take a note here, I put a little star right here. This location in Haiti is actually, when you plot it, it's going to end up out in the ocean. And the reason for that is because in the 65 million years since this impact occurred, Haiti's kind of trucked around a little bit because the plates move on the planet. Haiti's no longer where it used to be. So all the plates have moved some, but Haiti's moved so much that if we don't plot it back where it used to be, your data is going to be all screwed up. So to plot these, you're going to need the latitude and longitude. And some of you guys understand latitude and longitude. It's really pretty simple. It's a coordinate system whereby using any two of these coordinates, you can locate anything on the surface of the spherical part of our planet. So north essentially means north of the equator, and south is going to be south of the equator. And there are some south ones in here, so be careful. Okay. East and west is east and west of Greenwich, England, which is where we drew the longitude line on our planet. We needed to draw a line someplace, and there's not a vertical equator, so we picked Greenwich, England, essentially just because that's where the world clock is. It's where a lot of science happened. When we chose that, England was basically the scientific center of the world, so it runs through the middle of England in Greenwich. So that's where that's at. So anyway, anything west of that is west, and anything east of that is east, which is why we talk about ourselves as the Western world, because we're west of that line, and we talk about places like China and Japan as the Eastern world because they're east of that line. It's kind of arbitrary, isn't it? So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to plug this data into Google, and I've put it in a format, and I explained it right here. It's very simple. You need to put the latitude first with the N or the S, a space, and then the longitude with a west or an east. Okay, so space, and you're going to put the decimal in there just like that, and Google will interpret that, and it will drop you right on the spot. So let's cruise over to Google. I'm going to show you this. Okay, so here is the Google Maps engine. So this is very different than Google Maps. So don't type into your browser googlemaps.com or maps.google.com or whatever the heck that is. The address that you want is right up here on the top of my screen. Okay, https://www.google.com, and here's the part you need, /maps/D. Okay, that will take you to the Google Maps engine. Most folks don't even know that this exists. This is different than just regular Google Maps where you'd pull it up on your phone and go, hey, I need to locate where I'm going today, like give me directions sort of thing. What I use this for is to design maps. And a lot of you guys know that I do a lot of traveling. I've been kind of all over the world. How do I know where I'm going when I'm in a different country? Honestly, I use Google, and it works really, really well. And I'll design maps specifically so I can locate and plan my trip out, because I have to know what day I'm going to be where, how long it's going to take me to get there, and you just really can't beat, especially the driving directions on Google. So let me just kind of give you an example here. I'm going to click on my British Columbia map here. I spent some time in British Columbia, my wife and I did, and if I click on this, you guys will instantly see all these points on here are places that I actually went to, and I had an entire trip planned out. This doesn't look like the final one that I had, but I had actually color-coded these by day, so I knew which day I was going where. And you can see, like when I zoom in here, I've even got where I've landed here in Vancouver International Airport, kind of where I was going from there. I knew I needed to find a supermarket because I was going to need food right away. So I've got a couple of supermarkets marked on here. There were some locations I wanted to check out in the city before I took off for the wilderness. So I had some of those on here as well. And then you can see like some lines where I was mapping out distances, so I knew how long it was going to take. Places where there were campgrounds where I knew that I could put my tent up and sleep for the night. Things like that. And then it's very easy because when I'm in another country, I can just pull up Google and literally just click on one of these and map myself to it. In fact, you can share this. You can make it come up in your actual Google Maps on your phone, which is super, super slick. But this is honestly, this is how I do it. For instance, if we follow this line up here, this is driving directions to a location which is not along a road. The location I was hiking to, it doesn't look like I have it turned on. Let's see. Is there another layer? I may not have it on this map. This wasn't my final map. This is an older one. I think I was just demonstrating some stuff, some students. But anyway, I had a point marked out here on Garibaldi Lake because I wanted to get like on some trails way out here and take a look over the edge of this lake, which is just absolutely beautiful. And it was a heck of a hike. Actually, it might have been this Gentian's Peak up here. Oh, Panorama Peak, that's where it was. So I hiked all the way up here, like through a snowfield. Let's see if we can click on that. So I had that marked on my map. In fact, I can even import tracks to find like trails into this, which is a whole sort of another skill that we're not going to do today. But I just kind of wanted you guys to see sort of like some of the things that I use this for. So I've got I think the parking lot marked right here. And you can even insert photos. So this is a photo of the area that I went to from the top of that peak. And I've got marked myself some notes here about which trailhead that I needed as I left the parking lot area. So there's an awful lot that you can do with this, and it's a super, super slick skill to have in your repertoire if you ever want to do any traveling or some other things. You know, there's quite a bit you can do with this. Mapping is a heck of a skill to have. So anyway, pretty cool stuff here. Went kayaking out there on the Broken Islands. You know, I've got things marked, different islands that I wanted to visit, stuff like that. Anyway, let's take a look at how we're going to use this thing and what it's going to do. Let me go back to the original page there of My Maps. If you do a search for Google My Maps, this also probably will come up, but type in the menu bar here. That's by far the easiest way, the address bar, to get to where you're going, maps/D. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on Create a New Map. Pow. And here's my new map. So there's a lot we can do here. Let me kind of give you a little bit, a real quick little, how do you get around this thing? It works in layers. So I have my first layer here. It's an untitled layer. So I'm actually going to, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to probably title my map. So that's how you saw that other one said Vancouver, Canada on it. So I'll title my map. Maybe I'll put my name on there, Handling Impacts and Extinctions. Okay, you can even add a description. So now I've got my map here titled, so I know what it is. It'll be unique from my other maps. And now you can add layers, you can share this thing. There's a ton you can do. This preview thing is new to me. I'm not sure what that is. Let's click that and find out what that is. Oh, that's kind of cool, huh? So that's a new one to me. Get back to edit, I suppose. There we go. They're always adding new features. So the first layer here that I'm going to do, I'm going to label this thing Shocked Quartz. Okay, because that's the thing that I am talking about for this first one. You're going to have a separate layer here, so I'm going to put Shocked Quartz. Okay, save that there. Later on, I'm going to add another layer. So right now, and you'll see this import button, if you have actual tracks that you've exported from, say, your Garmin watch or some other thing that's in GPX format or something like that, you can import those things and actually edit them in here. KML files, CSV files, and that's how I do a lot of my tracks in areas where there's no roads. So anyway, there's menus out here where you can rename the layer, delete it. I would not mess with a whole lot of that. Down here, the base map, you can actually change your overlay. So you can see the satellite image, which is really nice. I wouldn't turn that on yet because it tends to run a lot slower if you have slow internet, because it's trying to pull all that satellite data up as you go. Okay, but that's actually a pretty nice thing to look at. Usually just use it leave it on the generic one here and just see the regular old map. So next step is I need to start searching. Let me explain some of these tools a little bit here first. Right now I have the hand tool, which is right there, so I can kind of drag my map around. There is also a path tool, so I could actually draw myself a line. You're not going to do this, but I just want to show you in case you decide that you want to do some of this stuff. You can. So like maybe I'm going to add a line or a shape, and I've got like an area here in Nebraska, and I'm like, oh, look at this. I've got the base map happens to be different. Like I need to walk from this little tiny little field out through, and I'm like tracing some little trail so I can get back to here. Okay, I could actually do that, and when I click the last point, it comes up and I can edit it and I can save it. It's now part of my layer. Okay, so that's a pretty cool thing to know. I'm going to delete this thing though because I don't want it. Okay, another thing that you can do is you can actually make measurements between 2 points, which is really slick. See, I need to know how far it's going to take me to walk from the corner of this road, and I know I've got to make it all the way over to this little field over here. It's 5.05 miles, right? Pretty cool. And I can even start to change angles and directions if I'm tracing something out to know how far it is. Now, if you drew a path, it would actually show you on the path, if you're using this thing, how far it is. So that'll all come up too. Just pretty cool stuff. Now I can drop points too. Let's say I'm like, oh man, I really need to find this little location right here. It's pretty hard to see, but I know I need to get right to here. I can actually plunk myself a point down right there, and then it can help me navigate to it. So like I said, these are all things that we're not going to do today, but I just wanted to show you guys what's available in this program, because it is really pretty cool and it's free. How about that? Comparative programs like this are like hundreds of dollars, using GIS software and things like that. But you get good like this using things like this, and you can get a high-paying job if you understand global information systems like this. Okay, let's delve back into our actual assignment here. We've got shocked quartz, and what we want to do, get my base map back to where it belongs. And what we want to do, I can zoom way out, you'll see the world wraparound. We're going to start putting in those first coordinates, in which my first coordinates happen to be for Belloc, Haiti, 15.5 north. Let me just pull this up because I've got it printed off here. Okay, 15.5 north, 83.2 west. Here's how you're going to enter that in here. Let me pull this back to here. There we go. So 15.5 north, 83.2 west. Okay, after you get that typed in, just like that, you're going to hit a space. I don't think you can leave any spaces between the W and the numbers there, or the N and the numbers. You pretty much have to have it just like that for it to come out right. Hit enter, pow. And I told you it was going to be in the middle ocean. That's what happened. Remember, it's moved. Click on that point, okay, and now you're just going to click add to map. Easy as that, right? Now notice it just came up right here in my shocked quartz layer. Okay. Now the next step, since if you look on the paper, I'm going to have you color code this stuff. Normally I have you actually change the title here and like put in how large the grain size is and all of that. I don't think we're going to mess with that on this one. Just because it's going to be more work, but you'll be able to see which point you've got in if you've screwed it up, because it's got that title in there. But you actually could click the edit button here, and you could change that and put in a description and a picture and all sorts of stuff. Okay, So all we need to do is click the style button here, which looks like a paint bucket. Mind you, if you screw up, you can always click the trash button. Okay, so click the style button, and I'm going to make, since this is the largest shocked quartz, I'm going to make this thing red. You can pick whatever color you want, but I want it to stand out as, you know, this is hot here. This is where there's a lot of this. So usually use a color like red or something like that. Okay, and there it is, right there in my map. Let me zoom out here, and you can actually see where that thing landed. So nowhere near where Haiti is today so much. There we go. So how do you know what colors you're going to make them? Let me show you that. I've created here at the bottom of this, so that's all data. This is all similar data. It just went on to the next page. I gave you a color code key here. You can pick whatever color you want, but you're going to use 4 different colors. Okay, so the first one is for anything less than or equal to 0.16 millimeters. Okay, so that's everything less than or equal to 0.16. The one that I just did is quite larger. It's down here at the bottom. Anything greater than or equal to 0.81 millimeters. This is the shocked quartz, and that one was 1.25. So that's greater, right? That there's only one that's going to be this color, because everything else beneath it is going to fall, the next things are going to fall into this category, the 0.49 to 0.80 millimeters. Okay, maybe I should reverse that and put the largest on the top, but it goes from smallest to largest. Okay, so you're going to start down here. So what you might do, and what I'd recommend, is if you've printed this off, I'd draw some lines. Okay, so like 0.81 and greater, well, that's just going to be this one right here. So I make myself a line here. Then we've got 0.76. That's going to fall into this range right here, all the way down to 0.49. Okay, so the next one's going to go all the way down. It's going to be all of these to 0.49 right here. So I would draw myself a line here, because I know these are all going to be one color, and then this stuff underneath here is going to be another color. Okay, and that's going to be from 0.17 to 0.48. So from 0.17 to 0.48, oops, did I screw that up? 0.17 to 0.48, nope. Okay, 0.17 would start down here, to 0.48 would stop right there. So I've got this next block that I need to make another color, okay? And then finally the last block, which is going to have some there, and then it's going to be the rest of this. So you've got 4 different colors on this map, okay? So as you go, let me just do the next one for you. In Raton Basin in New Mexico, there it is right there, Raton Basin, New Mexico. And I would really recommend crossing these out on your paper as you go, or put a ruler on it, because man, it is easy to mess up if you're typing in this number and you suddenly look at that number, right? It's really easy to screw up. So make it easy on yourself, and cross them off as you go if you can print this out. And I'll make some of these papers and leave them for you as well. So 36.87 north, 104.92 west. Be careful if you're north, south, or east, west. Search for that guy. Boom, drops it right there. Oops, sorry. That's my warning to go check the rocks that are tumbling. They're looking good, by the way. So you'll notice some of these, like there's Raton right there. So don't look at the name on there. Okay, don't do this. Don't copy this and paste it in there, because that's going to take you to a different location, especially like this one would. So don't copy that and paste it in there. A lot of the time they're going to be wrong. That's why I gave you the actual coordinates that will plunk you right where you need to be. So there it is again. See how it shows up here in my search area? It's not in my layer yet, so I need to put it in my layer. So I'll click on it, add to map, bingo, right there. Okay, so I'm going to pick another color for this, because I told you this next group is a different color. So these are still pretty big deal. So I think I'm going to go with kind of orange, still pretty thick quartz there. And so now we've got orange. Now when I zoom out, we're going to see, look at that. So we've got a nice red here and orange. You're going to see some more orange. then you're going to have two other colors on there as well as you do this. Now, let me say this about the shocked quartz. The shocked quartz, the distribution of it, we don't have points from everywhere in the world, so you're not going to have a completely perfect map, but you are going to see a pattern for sure. And in this pattern, think about the fact that this object that struck the planet probably didn't hit us perfectly head on, right? It probably hit us at an angle, and if it hit us at an angle, material is going to get thrown in the direction it was traveling, right? So not only are you going to be able to pinpoint the location of this thing, which you're already starting to see a location here, right? Because you've got a lot right here. You're also going to pinpoint the angle at which it entered. So this is how scientists have figured this stuff out. Okay, so keep that in mind as you go here. And I'll mention this, some of these other points, like you'll see some weird words here, like they're not a location. DSDP, that actually stands for Deep Sea Drilling Platform. And this is ODP, I think, is Oceanic Drilling Platform. So what these are different research vessels that can actually drill into the ocean. So you're going to find some of these things won't be on land like Teapot Dome, Wyoming. They'll be out in the middle of the ocean. So if you're trying to kind of check yourself a little bit, keep in mind some of these things will actually be middle of the ocean because that's where we drilled. In fact, most of the crater is underwater. Well, there's not really a crater so much anymore, but the leftovers of it are underwater. So that's how we actually discovered this thing, was initially drilling for oil. So a lot of these things are deep sea drilling platforms that we're looking at here. Okay, once you have that one done, you're going to have 4 colors on your map. You're going to need another layer. Okay, so I'm going to click New Layer here, Add a Layer. There it is, underneath here, an untitled layer. I'm in the middle of a lecture right now, sorry. We've got an untitled layer here, and on my layer, let's see here, I'm going to pull this up again so you can see. This is the next thing. So we just did shocked quartz. Make sure you've done all this data here. If you stop there, you're not going to have the rest of the data. It continues to there. Color code it. Okay, you're not going to hand in an actual printed map. I'll show you what to do here in a second. Part 2, the ejected depth. So this is not just the shocked quartz, which is pretty small, that's going to go pretty far. This is the material, the actual regolith, the bits and pieces of rock, some of which were huge, like I'm talking like Volkswagen size, like vehicle size, were blown out of this hole and thrown across the planet. This is a major event. So some of these areas of the planet are really deep, right? 65,000 centimeters deep of material buried, like from whatever blew out of this hole. Okay, all the way down to some that's only like a centimeter deep. Okay, so obviously the deeper the stuff that's been blown out of the hole, the closer you are to the actual impact site. So we're looking at kind of like where's the rim of this crater, and then outwards from there. So let's go ahead and call this one ejected depth. Okay, let me pull that back up. Oops. Okay, my untitled layer. And you can get both your maps set up first if you want, before you continue. So I've got 2 on here now. The tricky part now, you've got to be careful if you've got 2 of them on, is that the one that you're going to import new material, new points into, or you're going to place new points into, is going to be the one with the blue bar. So I know it's kind of faint and hard to see. Look for this blue bar. If it's on this one, your point's going to end up here. If I click up here, my point's going to end in there. So I want to put things into ejected depth right now, so I'm going to search for that first point, which, let me pull up the first point. Happened to be 20.83 north, 87.73 west, 87.73 west. Okay, hit enter there. Okay, I want to add this to my map, so before I click on this, make sure I'm in the right map. If I'm up here, it's going to put it into shocked quartz. Well, I don't want that. I want it into my ejected depth. So make sure that that thing is highlighted there. Once you've highlighted it, it'll stay that way until you change it. So we'll click on that guy, click Add to Map, and now I need some new colors. And there is a new color scheme for this. Pull this back up here. So the data starts here. We just plotted this point right here, okay? And we're going to go all this data here, okay, down to right here. So I gave you some ranges. They go from smallest to largest again, so we're dealing with the largest stuff first, so we're down here. You're only going to have 3 colors on this one. You get to pick the colors. I would make the deepest depth one something like really stand out and shock and awe here, right? That's where the impact is, out to kind of lighter and lighter colors. That's usually a pretty good way to do it. You can use the same colors as before if you like. Reuse some of them, totally fine. So let me pull that back up again. So this one, let's say I want to use the same sort of color scheme. I want like a nice red for the main impact area, and then I'll go lighter and lighter, maybe yellow for my most distant one, or a light blue, you know, something, make it nice. So there we go. There's my ejected depth. As I zoom out, this is going to get confusing real fast because I've got points from both of these layers on here. So check this out. What you can do is just go up here and turn off the shocked quartz. See that? On the shocked quartz, off the shocked quartz. If I do that, I'm not going to get confused, and I'm not going to accidentally put anything in there, right? Because just this is going to be highlighted. So it might be kind of helpful to whichever one you're not working on, turn that thing off and then go back, okay? We'll go ahead and put in one more here. So the next point was 20.02 north, 88.75 west. Hit enter. Pow. Add to map. This one's also going to be red, like the other one. Okay. Now I zoom out, I should see my 2 points. Should be pretty close together. There they go. So that's where the majority of the impact material was blown out of the crater. So what you're going to see with these nearest points here is not so much the center of the crater as you are going to see the rim of the crater, because the material was blown out of the crater, right? Keep in mind the crater has since been erased, and as I told you, some of it's underwater, most of it's underwater, so you're not going to see the actual crater. And when you're done, you can flip on your other base map. It's kind of cool that way. So let's talk about how you're going to hand this thing in. So right now I've got my points on there. Let's say I've completed all the shocked quartz, I've completed the ejected depth, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off ejected depth here for a second, is you're going to hand in 2 different maps, okay? So the first one I'm going to hand in is my shocked quartz. So as long as I've got that thing selected and I've turned off my ejected depth, I can zoom out, and I'll tell you right now, you're going to have to zoom out fairly far. Okay, you can put whatever layer on you want for this. To zoom out far enough that you can see all the points, because you're going to have points that are out here, out here. If you go out too far, it's going to get so small. These bells, can't turn these bells off. It's going to get so small that you're not going to be able to see all the points are going to crunch together. So kind of get it to where you can see like centered on the main area. If you're missing a couple of points, if they go off the screen either direction, that's totally fine. Okay. What I would like you to do is to take a screen capture of this. So if you know how to do that, awesome. If you don't, and you search online Windows computer screen capture or Mac screen capture, it will show you how to do a screen capture. There's a key combination, there's even a program. It's what I'm actually using right now on the Mac. It's actually called, if you're on a Mac, it's called Screenshot. How about that? So you can record your screen, you can take a whole picture of the screen. So do that, so you can just submit that into the assignment, or you can email it to me or message it to me, however you like, for the shocked quartz. Okay, after you do the shocked quartz, knock that one off, turn on your ejected depth, and then do one of your ejected depth. The ejected depth one, I'll warn you, is going to have a lot of points, and some of them are pretty far away. So rather than try and zoom too far out, like I said before, you can zoom into the main central region, and it's okay if you miss some of the ones on the outside, if some of them kind of fall outside the screen a little bit, so you can actually see the main area that we're talking about, right? Okay, I think we've explained all this pretty much in depth. It's pretty straightforward. Once again, your shocked quartz is going to not only show you where the main area is near the crater, but it's also going to show you the angle of impact, like where the majority of stuff blew from. Okay, so remember that where it got landed was the direction it was traveling. The ejected depth is going to be really close to the crater, so you're going to see some really deep ejecta right next to the crater, and it's going to get thinner the further out you go from the crater, right? And also remember, the prevailing winds blow from west to east, so a lot of the wind is going to, some of it's going to get carried a little bit more one direction than the other, but it's still going to really neatly outline that crater for you if you keep to the color scheme that I showed you in the packet. Right, there's 3 colors on this one. On the other one, the shocked quartz, there's 4 different colors to get it to come out looking a little bit easier. Okay, when you're done with those, you're going to take those 2 screenshots. If you can't figure out how to do a screenshot, you can even take a picture with your phone, but like do a good job so I can actually like figure out what in the heck you're showing me, right? Because it's a little difficult with the phone. Finish the reading. Okay, you can even finish that before you start. Because there's going to be a couple of questions, and like I said, I'll put those questions on It's Learning for you, so you don't have to hand in this paper. You can just fill them out right on It's Learning for me, okay? So you're doing the quiz on It's Learning, and you're also taking two screenshots, one of shocked quartz and one of ejected depth, okay? But do the rest of the points first. Okay, if you've got any questions, get in touch with me, and hope it all goes well. Last quick note here. I just realized this new feature they have, this preview feature, makes it really easy to turn this in. If you click the preview, you end up in this view right here, and all you have to do is select what you want to view. Okay, so like if I'm just going to do ejected depth, then I can click up here and I can click collapse map legend and dismiss that, and I have a really nice, it'd be way easier to take a screenshot of this or even a photo because it's got the whole thing and all that stuff's not in the way. Okay, and then when I want to change it, just click map legend and I can go back to my shocked quartz. Okay, close out of that, collapse the map legend, do another screenshot. So I think that'll probably be the easiest and the nicest way to get a picture of what you've done. Okay.